For over 2 decades, G. Joseph had worked as a neonatal nurse. Over the years, she had witnessed and heard stories of unusual circumstances in which babies were brought into this world. But 14 years ago, she played a major role in a story of her own. One that has now become widely known. And it all began with a shoebox. G was working at Swedish American Hospital in Rockford, Illinois. On April 24, 2004. She was in the special care nursery when she received a call from the emergency department, notifying her that someone wanted to see her. Walking down the hall, she noticed a teary-eyed teenage boy wearing a hoodie, clutching a shoebox. G was shocked when she looked inside the box. Wrapped in a dish towel and a doll's onesie was a tiny baby. The hospital staff immediately placed the baby in isolation, while the teen stood there anxiously. 3 hours later, the staff managed to stabilize the baby. But G saw that the teen had waited and cried the entire time. She decided to approach him to learn more. The teen explained to G that he was the father and that both he and the baby's mother, who was 15, wanted to give the baby up. G agreed but told him that once he relinquished his parental rights, she wouldn't be able to provide him with updates on the baby's condition. She offered him 2 parental bracelets and suggested he think carefully about his decision. The teen and his girlfriend, Cherish Coates, came to visit their child at the hospital. Cherish was clearly upset and had her head down. G placed a hand on Cherish's shoulder and said, "You know that you saved his life, right? I don't want you to hang your head. You gave him the best chance you could." That's when a bond formed between Cherish and the nurse. Cherish confided in G, who comforted her without passing judgment. Cherish admitted that she had hidden her pregnancy from her parents because they wanted her to graduate and go off to college. Her own mom had given birth when she was 15. And Cherish was determined not to let her grandparents down. She also explained the grueling way her boyfriend's mother found out about her pregnancy. Cherish gave birth on her own, managing to hide her growing stomach for months. She concealed her pregnancy until the day she started experiencing painful cramps at school. Upon returning home, she locked herself in her room and faced the labor pains alone. As soon as the baby was born, she called her boyfriend, who rushed to her bedroom by climbing a ladder. Both teenagers were overwhelmed by fear and uncertainty, which led the boy to take the baby to the hospital. Before leaving, they left behind an explanation. In a poignant gesture, the teenagers placed the baby in a shoebox along with a Winnie the Pooh doll. They added a heartfelt note that expressed their love for the child while acknowledging their inability to raise him. The note stated that they wished to name him Alan Corey and hoped to see him again. They believed that God would watch over the baby. The boy embarked on an almost 8-mile journey, carrying the shoebox. It was astonishing that the baby survived the trip. Baby Alan was born 6 weeks prematurely and suffered from hypothermia. Medical specialists treated him for an infection caused by the scissors used to cut the umbilical cord. He was also dehydrated. Remarkably, he exhibited a trait rare among premature babies: he was able to breathe on his own. The doctor who treated him noted that there seemed to be someone watching over the child. G wanted Cherish to be aware of all the options available to her, including open adoption. But she also encouraged her to inform her family. Cherish eventually gathered the courage to share the news with her mother, assuming that her mom would be more understanding since she had experienced a similar situation in her youth. Cherish escorted her mother to the incubator, and her mother's expression turned pale upon seeing the baby. Cherish was at a loss for words until G arrived to assist. Cherish's mom expressed a desire to hold the baby, much to the teenager's surprise. A few hours later, Cherish's grandmother arrived at the hospital. When Cherish realized that she had plenty of love and support, she made the decision not to give the child away. 4 weeks later, baby Alan left the hospital. Before his departure, G asked Cherish to promise that she would stay in school. Her grandparents were willing to take care of the baby while she pursued her education. But Cherish chose to enroll in an alternative school with daycare services. She explained that she didn't want to burden her grandparents. G and Cherish lost touch for 12 years. But in 2016, G received a Facebook message from Cherish. At the age of 29, Cherish was living in Glendale, Arizona. She was now a mother of 3 children, including Alan, who was 14 years old. Alan was actively involved in sports, playing soccer, running cross-country, and being part of the Naval Academy cadets. Cherish had also accomplished much in her life after high school. She attended Rock Valley College, eventually becoming a certified nurse assistant. She spent 7 years working at an Illinois hospital and later in Arizona. She had even applied to law school and was currently working as a law clerk. Her aspiration was to become a mental health attorney, and she credited G as her inspiration. Cherish expressed her gratitude to G, stating, "I just wanted to let her know how much of an impression she made. We will always be connected because we share this unique story." Although G acknowledged the impact of her empathy on Cherish, she believed that any of her colleagues would have done the same. G reflected on her role, saying, "It just makes me think. Wow, every interaction you have with anybody is so important. To be able to be in this position where I'm part of someone's story, part of their life, that's such an honor." G continues to work at Swedish American Hospital and enjoys keeping up with Alan's growth and achievements through Facebook. She is content knowing that she played a significant role in his life. A woman removes paint varnish and discovers her husband's 50-year-old secret. This incredible story is that of Charlotte and John, a couple who have been married for over 50 years and who have lived happy but sober lives. Sadly, John suffered from an incurable disease and spent the last days of his life in a hospital bed. In his last breath, he told Charlotte that she needed to take a closer look at the painting he made for her a few months after their wedding. She went to a conservatory, and immediately after the latter removed the coat of varnish from the top of the painting, she found out that her husband had kept a huge secret for all these years. When Charlotte and John met over 50 years ago at a local bar, it was love at first sight. Both were very shy, and it took John's courage to take the first step. A simple smile was enough for him to immediately fall in love with each other. They quickly became attached to each other, and the two lovebirds quickly became inseparable. Even though Charlotte was happy with him, she was sometimes suspicious of him. He was often away, and when she asked him exactly what he had done, he always reacted a little suspiciously. Charlotte was not a jealous woman, but she had to make sure that her husband was always happy with her. John would often disappear without saying anything, and he would sometimes go out to dinner with a pretty woman, but he would also say that it was for his work. Charlotte sometimes doubted that he had fallen in love with her. Also, John had a drawer in his bedroom that Charlotte was never allowed to look into. She had tried looking for the key once when he was gone for a few days, but that too had failed. In the end, she had given up on seeking confirmation and blamed herself for her suspicions. She told herself that she was too jealous and that she already had everything she dreamed of having with John. Even she just couldn't live without him and would never leave him, even if he was unfaithful. John never mistreated his wife, he loved her deeply. However, he insisted on shedding that weight when he passed away. He did not take his secrets with him to his grave. Sadly, John was diagnosed with a rare disease. He had health problems for a long time but was still too stubborn to go to the doctor or the hospital. When at one point it really couldn't go on like this anymore, he finally went to the doctor and heard the bad news. Doctors had not been able to find a solution to this problem or the origin of his illness. One thing the doctor was sure of, however, was that he didn't have much longer to live and that there was nothing they could do for him. Charlotte was left alone with him until the end. And despite this bad news, the two had great conversations about their wonderful lives. They talked about the memories they had together over the years. But then, John started talking about the wedding gift he gave his wife 50 years ago. John had always been a creative person, and his great passion was painting. He was very talented. And after creating many paintings and sketches, he decided to make a beautiful painting for his wife as a wedding present. Little did anyone know that this painting held a secret that would make it incredibly special. As John's health rapidly declined, his final hours drew near. In his last breath, he told his wife, Charlotte, that the painting was not an ordinary one, and she needed to take a closer look at it. Charlotte didn't fully comprehend his message at the time, but his last words lingered in her mind for days. After some contemplation, Charlotte decided to investigate further. She closely examined the painting, searching for any clues or hidden meanings. However, on the surface, the painting appeared to be just like any other. Fortunately, Charlotte had an old friend who had been a restoration expert for over 40 years, specializing in antique paintings. She reached out to him for assistance, and he agreed to help. With painstaking effort, the restorer carefully removed the top layer of varnish from the painting, uncovering something extraordinary hidden beneath. He contacted Charlotte to share his discovery, a mysterious message concealed beneath the varnish. It was just a small part of a much larger secret that Charlotte was about to unveil. The message contained an address and a code, both written in her husband's handwriting. Charlotte immediately recognized the address. It belonged to the local bank where she and her husband still had an account. She felt a mixture of anticipation and anxiety as she arrived at the bank with the address and code in hand, uncertain about what awaited her there. When she presented the information to the bank representative, their reaction was unexpected and left her with many questions. Charlotte's unusual request had left the bank clerk quite puzzled. To his surprise, he immediately recognized the code she provided. It belonged to one of the oldest safes in the bank, which had remained unopened for over 50 years. He often wondered if anyone would ever come to claim its contents. And it seemed that the day had finally arrived. After a rather lengthy wait, the bank manager emerged from the depths of the bank's vault. He was accompanied by a security guard and another bank employee. The sight of such an entourage further fueled Charlotte's curiosity. What could her husband have placed in that safe over 5 decades ago? Before Charlotte could gain access to the safe's contents, she had to complete a series of formalities. She signed several documents and answered personal questions, all contributing to the air of mystery surrounding the event. When Charlotte finally peered inside the box, she encountered something entirely unfamiliar, something she couldn't identify. It was a device used for fingerprint scanning. And after placing her finger on it and seeing the light turn green, they were granted access to the safe. As the safe swung open, Charlotte was met with a breathtaking sight, more money than she had ever seen in one place. The box was brimming with currency. But the money was just one aspect of the safe's astonishing contents. Nestled alongside the cash was an envelope, bearing her husband's handwriting. Inside the envelope was a letter. A letter penned by John almost half a century ago. Shortly after their wedding, tears welled up in Charlotte's eyes as she began to read. In the letter, John revealed a long-kept secret. He had inherited a substantial sum of money from his uncle when he was a child. A wealthy businessman who had financially cared for John since his father's passing when he was just 4 years old. Yet, John had chosen not to share this wealth with Charlotte for a profound reason. He wished to be loved and respected for who he was. Not for his riches. John had seen how people had treated his uncle differently once they learned of his wealth. And he was determined not to let that happen to him. He surrounded himself with sincere and selfless individuals throughout his life, ensuring that their love and respect were genuine. But that wasn't all. John's letter explained that all the inherited money was intended for Charlotte to use as she wished, ensuring her financial security for the rest of her life. He expressed deep gratitude for the love and respect she had shown him throughout their life together. Charlotte, though not in dire need of the money, decided to put it to generous use. She donated a substantial portion of it to fund research into the disease that had claimed John's life. She wanted to honor his memory by contributing to finding a cure. With the remaining funds, Charlotte fulfilled one of John's lifelong dreams. He had always aspired to have his works of art displayed in a museum. Charlotte made his dream come true posthumously, ensuring that his artistic legacy lived on. It was a heartwarming and bittersweet discovery, a testament to the enduring love and generosity of a husband who had kept a remarkable secret for over 50 years.